are now listening to the sounds of Mood Swing Music Group.
Hey, yo, what's up, man? Welcome back to the channel, man. And today what we gonna do, man, we gonna get into a little bit of the sampling side of Logic. And the reason I'm getting into this, man, is because I've been hearing a lot of talk on the internet, mainly YouTube, talking about you got guys who taking loops and samples from like Splice and sounds.com and all these different places and can't get the copyright information right and stuff because somebody already submitted those samples, because basically what people are doing is taking those samples, and this is the craziest thing to me, but they taking those samples and they dropping those samples, leaving them the way they are and structuring a beat around them as if nobody else is gonna do that. So what we gonna do today, man, we gonna do a couple things. We're gonna show you a few little things in the sampler and Logic and why you should be using it. And how you could be using it to change and whip down some of these samples that you're getting from these sample libraries, and also just show you how far from the original sample that you can take that sample and make sure that nobody can claim your music. So if that's something that you want to see, stay tuned and I got you. So yeah, man, basically what we gonna do is this. Let's get in here. I'm going to let you hear what the sample sounded like when I first started. Let's go in. We do this. We do this one first. This is what the sample sounded like. Let's go. This is the bass. That's how the bass sounded when I first started, and this is how the keys sounded when I first started. Now, I know what you're saying, and most people say this, and I said it. I chose this sample because it sounded so well, right? So what we don't want to do is leave it sounding like that, because somebody can come behind us and take this same sample, same bass line, throw it on a track, put an artist on it or not, send it in, get it copywritten, and then your song is basically dead. So what you want to do to keep your music alive, but still be able to deal in the realms of Splice and sounds.com and some of the other places where you get royalty-free samples and stuff, man. You want to start learning how to whip these samples down and turn them into your own stuff. So here's what we're going to do. Let's look at this, man. So here's what we ended up with after I changed the sample. And these are the keys right here. Now, nothing crazy, right? But, excuse me, it's totally different from that original, right? So let's play it one more time. Now let's play the original sample one time. Totally different, right? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to show you exactly what we done to this sample. So first thing we did, we dropped it into the sampler, and we dropped it in as, let's see here. We dropped it in as optimized, and let me show you how to do that really quick. I'm going to pull up this same group. Let's pull up, let's find it. Yep, that's the same one. So watch this. So basically what we did is pulled it up like this and dropped it in here. And you see how that comes up? We dropped it in Quick Sampler Optimize. And once we dropped it in there, it did like this. And it brought the sampler up automatically for us. And once it brought the sampler up automatically, this is what I did. So check this out. Once it brought that sampler up, so we can close this out because we're not going to use this. Matter of fact, we can delete this. And I just wanted to show you how to export it over. Go back here, And now here's the sampler that we brought up. And as you can see, I put it on slice and I sliced it where I wanted it. And I actually chose the parts that I wanted to play with the keys. And once I chose the parts that I wanted to play with the keys, I came down and I turned on follow tempo. And what that does is allow the sample to play at the speed of the actual tempo of the track. And then I went to polyphony and turned it to 1. And what that does is when you hit the keys, every time you hit a key, it stop it from triggering and start it over. Instead of having those overlapping, you have a sample and it's just overlapping because every time you hit it, it's just dropping a whole nother sample on top. Well, this is like a choke group. It's like choking it off. So every time you touch it, it start over. And so I did that. I messed with a few of these parameters. I think I messed with this fade a little bit. Yes, I changed the pitch because the pitch was totally different. So, matter of fact, let's hear it real quick. I might be on the wrong one. I know why I didn't change, but so that's pretty much all I did in here, man. I mean, I didn't really do too much more in there, and that's what we came up with as far as chopping the sample up and making it play the way we want it. Matter of fact, if you look at it, let's see something here. Let's close this, make a little room on the screen. If you look at it, let's solo this and go back, and you'll see on the screen actually the sequence in which the sample is playing. So right there, it showed you the sequence that I played the sample in, right? So the next thing I did, matter of fact, let's go back a little bit more. Let's turn all of these off. We're going to turn them off. And now let's play it. This is what it sounded like initially when I first laid the sample. So it's actually playing that sample that you heard in the beginning, right? And you could, it'll sound like a nice track like that, but we don't want to do that. We want to take it a little further. So just in case somebody else did something close to this, we would have an edge on them. So the next thing I did, added a little distortion to it. So you go in, boom, bring up your distortion, and now listen to it. And it gave it just a little bit of grit, right? So instead of changing the frequency, because I know a lot of people like to change frequencies and all, they're doing like different frequency sweeps on samples. You don't have to do that all the time. You can take a little bit of distortion and it'll change that just enough to turn it into something different. So after we did the distortion on it, I added one of my favorite things, and that's the tremolo. So once I added this tremolo to it, it sounds like this. Now that's where you get your bounce from. If you notice, now it's bouncing a little bit. It's bouncing like a ball. And basically what I did, I changed the rate up to 1/8, and then I moved the actual graph here so that I could get it bouncing the way I want it. If you notice, it bounced depending on where you got it, but I lined them up. And once you line them up, it just got a consistent bounce to it. And it was sounding good right there, but then you know what? I said, let me do something else. Let me do one or two more things. I started adding, you know how it gets, you start adding to it, and the next thing you know, you knee deep in it. So it was sounding kind of shallow to me. So I went and I added wider to it so that I could spread it out some. And this is what it sounded like with wider on it. And basically, I spread it out 61%, and I just pushed it out to each side so that now, when you listen to it, it has more dynamic to it. It's actually massaging both ears instead of sitting right in the middle. And what I try to do when I make tracks, I try to keep the artist in mind, because I never want too much sitting in the middle, because that's where I want my artist sitting when I do my mixes. So that's just something for you guys to think about to be making beats and stuff. So then after that, after we added, we can close this to make a little more space on the screen. And then after that, I added Space Designer, because this is our main sound, and we wanted to encompass things, right? We want it to mean something, right? We wanted to have that feeling. So we added Space Designer to it. And now with Space Designer, this is what it sounds like. And as you can see now, it got larger. It's bigger. So after that, I wanted a little more flavor on it, so I added a flanger. And the flanger, it does just a little, but what it does, it gives it a little ambient noise tailing on there that makes it sound a little metallic-y. And then I just went through here and pretty much worked these until I felt like it had the sound that I wanted. Because when you started, it's like this. And I didn't want it to sound underwaterish like that. So I brought it down. And the main reason I brought it down is because, see how it sounds? It started sounding real just milky and smooth. Now, that's everything that I done to the original sample. Now, we can go back and we can listen again. And you tell me what you think. Here it is. Or you can just drop it on your beat like this and run the risk of somebody having the same thing. This is kind of boring after hearing what I did to it to me. And I like this sample. But we're going to go back, unsolo that. And now what I did, I added the bass to it. So this bass right here, I did the exact same thing. I dropped that bass. I actually took that bass and dropped it inside of the sampler. And I chopped it up in accordance to the way I chopped up the keys, so that it would actually follow the way the keys were going, right? But not only follow the way the keys were going, give the bass some sort of groove, right? So check it out. Let's see what we got here. We'll rewind it a little bit. We don't want the beat though. We want to solo this. Now check it out. Here comes the bass. Now, the only thing I did to this is I brought it in, I put it on slice, I chopped it up, and pretty much the same chops, pretty close to the same chops as I did with the keys. And also, I came down here and I messed with the pitch a little bit. I dropped it 1 octave or 12 semitones. I kind of tuned it a little bit, and I added some glide to it, so that when the bass end and start, it got a little bit of glide to it to make it kind of slide in there. And then I dropped my polyphony once again to 1, so that it chokes off each one as they hit, and did the follow tempo. So I did the same thing. I just followed it. And not only did I follow it, I pulled the MIDI information from up here down to this one and made a full carbon copy of it so that they follow each other. So when you listen to them, it's pretty much playing in accordance to each other. Now that's a far cry from this. This is what we had originally. So that's what we had originally. And I mean, it is what it is, right? It's exactly what it is. It does exactly what it does, and that's where it starts and stops. And if you notice to that bass, when you come over here, I didn't do anything else to it. I dropped it 12 semitones to make it deep, and I chopped it in the sampler, did those things in sampler. I haven't added anything else to it, no audio effects or anything yet. I might add a little bit of distortion to it just to give it some grit. But other than that, the sample was in C sharp. So what I did was for my Native Instruments guys, I went into open me up a software instrument, and I opened up Complete Control. And I went into the scale mode, and I set it to C sharp major. And man, I just played the keys until I came up with a tune for the track. I just needed something else to go on top of the track just to give it some variation, right? So this is what I came up with, playing in C sharp major and Complete Control with the scale function on. So this is what we came up with. And that's what we came up with. That I wanted some kind of lead instrument on there, some kind of lead that would just give it something. You know what I'm saying? That when you're listening to it, it's like some ear candy or whatever. And then once I done that, they sound like this together. Let's see if we can find a spot on the track where they all play together. And this is what they sound like together. Sound pretty dope, you know what I'm saying? And so I know I wanted some sort of mallet on here after that. I needed something with a ring to it, right? So I found me a bell. I went into Complete Control again, set it up for C sharp major, and then I actually got me a bell, found me a bell, and here's the bell. Let me turn these off so you can hear the bell by itself. And that's the bell that I found. And if you listen to it all together, this is the musical end of the track. And that's what it sounds like all together, man. After a little bit of minor mixing and just kind of getting it together. But what I did, let me go take this off, and I'm going to show you how I got my bell to sound the way it sounds. So this is what the bell sounded like originally. Sounded pretty good, but because my synth is singing that same way, the synth was drowning it out. So what I didn't want to happen, I wanted that and the synth to play in its own playground, right? So that when they play together, you can hear them. So what I did, I changed it some. I put me a compressor on it, dropped me a compressor on there, and I think I whipped my ratio to 3-to-1. Dropped this to 24 minus 24 dB. Didn't do too much makeup on that. I'm still at -4. Changed my attack a little bit down low so that you can hear that first part of that bell thumping in there. How it's going. You can hear that first part of that bell like if somebody was striking it. That's the only thing I did with the compressor. Then I added wider to it, one of my favorite tools, as you can see, and I opened it up 63%. And with wider on it sounds like this. And for those of you who don't know, wider is a free VST that you can get. I want to say on Plug-in Boutique, maybe. Go to Plug-in Boutique and type it in. You should. This one is free. This is free. I normally don't. To be honest with you, I don't buy a lot of this stuff. I mean, I'm the type of guy I can work right out of the box and do what everybody else do. But I've been doing this for like 27 years, so it's a little different for me. But I like wider. I mean, but if you don't have wider, I can show you one that you can use. If you don't have wider, you can go down here to specialize. Nah, you can go down here to, where is it? I saw it the other day. You can go down here and go to spreader. Spreader will get you going in the same direction. So if you don't have wider, you can definitely put spreader on there and do close to the same thing. To me, wider just has a little cleaner effect on it though, with high end, with not high end stuff, with high pitched tones. And after wider, we went in, we did some EQing on it. So dropped a little EQ on it. And what I did with the EQ, man, I pretty much closed it in. I boxed it in, right? And I made it sit right where I wanted to. I wanted to sit between about 600 and 1500, right? I wanted it to have its own spot between 600 and 1500. Main reason being, I think if I go to this one, I got this one sitting somewhere near it, right? I got this one sitting about 1500 to 6K. So I put them in two different zones with the equalizer, and that's one way you can use your equalizer. You can use your equalizer to move stuff around in your mix. So basically I put them in two different zones, and when you listen to them playing together, they actually sound good together. See what I'm saying? So with the equalizer, I actually took them and moved them around and did what I wanted to do with them. But back to this one. But then to make it really sound good with that synth, if you notice with that synth right now, they just singing together. So what I did, I came back with my tremolo. And for you guys that don't know about the tremolo, this is going to be one of your best tools that you can use as far as manipulating your sounds. And it really comes in handy when you're using like pads and stuff like that, because sometimes in these DAWs, the pads will be really plain. This is how you can dress pads up and make them sound really good for like R&B tracks and stuff like that. But I added tremolo to it. And once I added tremolo to it, now this is what they sound like playing together. Now, as you can see now, my bell got a bounce to it. It's going boom, 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 boom. So now when you got the synth playing straight through, you got that bell bouncing on top of it. And basically it gives you like this little effect when all the music is playing. Check it out. So yeah, man, that's pretty much what we did with all of those, right? And when it came to the drums, I literally came in and just did the first thing that I could do. So I don't know if you guys know how to make a drum track in here or not or whatever, but let me see if I can do it really quick. We'll add a track. We'll say software instrument. And it can say complete control. We'll add a track. And right here where we added this track, you just go in, right click, and you can turn it in. You can go to create pattern. And basically it's going to bring up the pattern view right here where if you want to drop some drum sounds in, you can drop them in. If you want to drop a whole kit in, it'll let you drop a whole kit in and do your thing in there. And that's pretty much how I did that as far as with the drums. I'm going to delete this, and then I'm going to let you hear what the drums sound like. Matter of fact, let's open up the drums. We can close this. And we can open up the drums so you can see how simple they are, these simple drums that I program. And let's let this down some. Let's solo this. We can go up to here and now, super simple, right? Super simple drum pattern. If you notice, I didn't go crazy with it. I don't have more pages up here with different variations yet. I didn't do any of that stuff yet. Basically, this is strictly for the sake of this video. I literally just plugged those in. They worked. I left it at that. It's just that simple. And I would advise everybody with Logic to start using this step sequencer. This step sequencer is pretty thorough. You can do some really dope stuff with this step sequencer, man. So that's the beat that I laid. And I wanted something simple. I didn't want it to be complex. So this is what we gonna do. This is what we started with. So I think that's dope, man. To be honest with you, I think that's really dope, and I think it's something that you could use if you just making music to play in your car or something. If you just if this is just your hobby, if you're not trying to get paid for music, you can use those samples like that. I wouldn't advise it if you're trying to get paid. I wouldn't advise using samples out of sounds.com or Splice or any of these other platforms that everybody tell you to go to. I'm noticing everybody on the internet getting paid by these guys to tell you to go there and get these subscriptions, because they know once people get subscriptions, a lot of times they forget about it and they just making money off of them having those subscriptions. You go to these subscription sites, man, and there's so many samples in there, you know it's going to be a problem at some point in music. So like we can pull up sounds right here. This is sounds.com, man. Look at it. I mean, it's so much on here, right? Look at this. I mean, it's just sample libraries after sample libraries after sample libraries. Now, I get it when these guys are talking about the looper producers and all this stuff they call them, but I'm going to be honest with you, man. How could you not use this stuff if it's put in front of you like this? Because when I first started, it wasn't like this. First of all, this digital, all of this digital stuff, all of these different platforms, none of this stuff existed. The only loop you had was the loop you made in your MPC from your synthesizer. So I don't blame a lot of guys for using it because they don't know no better. They don't realize that somebody gonna come behind them and use it. They think they doing something fly, right? And it might be fly until you find out that that same sample is on somebody else's record already copywritten. So let's just do this real quick, man. Look, just Native Instruments alone. I'm gonna hit see all and look at how much of Native Instruments stuff is on here. So when you guys go out here and buy Native Instruments sound packs, I don't know if you know, but they put part of their sound packs on sounds.com for the people who subscribe to this, right? And look at this. You can go through here and literally get all of the juice you want for your songs and stuff. And these are actual sound packs that's sold on Native Instruments website. And look, it's saying load more. It's even more on here to load. You see what I'm saying? So I don't blame the guys for doing it. I blame the guys for not showing the guys how to do it, right? Somebody out here got to show the guys how to maneuver within the game, right? So this sample is purposely from sounds.com. You know what I'm saying? And I did that on purpose. And my thing is this, man, we just gotta be better about the whole music thing, right? So instead of talking about the guys who using the loops, get in the game and show them how to use loops. That's all I'm saying. I've been doing it 27 years, man, and it's like I see so many people so quick to talk bad about somebody else instead of just handling business and saying, look, young blood, this is how you could do this. This is a way to do it so that you can maneuver and get out of those pitfalls. But if nobody else do it, I'll do it, because what I do on my channel, I like to look out for the beginner producer. I like the beginner producers to have somewhere to go where they can get that beginner information. I know you guys be watching a lot of these other guys, man, and they doing all of this fancy stuff, right? And I understand it because I've been doing it. I've been working in Logic since 2008, and I've been working in studios since 1996. So I get it. I understand the jargon and all the words they throwing around and the frequency settings and all this. I understand all that, but the new guys don't, and that's who we need to teach. If we want music to keep progressing, we got to keep progressing we got to keep teaching. So that's all I got to say, man. That's my rant for the day. I ain't going to say too much more else about it, man, but it was kind of getting on my nerves that everybody's so quick to talk bad about the people using the loops. But then what I'm seeing on some of these same people's sites and on their YouTube channels, they are sponsored by Splice and Sounds.com to tell you to go get loops from there. But then they talk about you after you get the loops from there. So I don't really dig that, man. I don't like that at all, because if you picked up a check from Native Instruments or whoever else for doing that, you definitely shouldn't talk about nobody for using this shit. So Mood Swing Music Group, this the way we do it. I just wanted to show y'all, man, that you can take these samples, flip these babies, do what it is you want to do with them, and have your own original music. Leave comments in below if you want to see me go in depth a little more on this. We can do some more stuff like this, man. But I'm just kind of sick of all the talk. You know what I'm saying? And like I always say, man, don't just be a producer, be productive.